It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. This round is MotoAmerica Superbikes at New Jersey in our 10th anniversary season from Millville, New Jersey, in our final round of 2024 from New Jersey Motorsports Park. Supersport Race number 1 of 2, the penultimate race of the year on deck, and we have ourselves an unfinished championship battle that's raging on the racetrack. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time national champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, it's been the story for pretty much the last 3 quarters of this entire season. P.J. Jacobsen and Matthew Skoltz getting after it, Ducati versus Yamaha.
Yeah, it really has been a great season to watch these two go head-to-head and go at it. And, of course, we had Jake Lewis throw his name in the hat at COTA with that win. But really, for Matthew and P.J., it's all come down here to New Jersey. And the championship's been so tight all year. And then the last couple of rounds, we've had both of them making a couple little mistakes here or there, and for whatever reason that is, they haven't scored points in a couple of races, so it's made it a little bit bigger gap than we would have loved to have had here at Jersey.
Let's take a look at what you're talking about, really, because when you look at Matthew Skoltz and the season that he has had, he's been an absolute breath of fresh air in the Supersport category and really started out strong.
We all thought Matthew was going to do well this year, but I think everybody thought he was going to do quite as well as he did. Jumping off a Superbike, he felt like he was the man to come here and win for that Strack Racing team, and he has done really, really well. For this guy, P.J. Jacobsen, so well traveled, has really found a home down there with the Rahal Ducati team and has put together a string of wins himself, as you would expect to see from the number 15 P.J. Jacobsen.
But when you have a championship this tight, Jason, it's all about those little mistakes and falling off the motorcycle that's going to hold you back. And it's been a crazy amount of points scored by both riders. At Circuit of the Americas, though, it was this that really blew this championship wide open.
If you remember the day before, Matthew had an incident up in turn 1, and this is the last lap for PJ. And you can see here, championship lead for Matthew right now coming in here, Greg, 39 points. He clinches the title today with 4th place finish or better. And he's actually seeking his second MotoAmerica championship. As you remember, he won that back in 2017 in Stock 1000.
And the one thing, too, about Matthew Skoltz and talking with him this weekend, he feels very loose, very relaxed. But don't take my word for it. The third member of our broadcast team, Hannah Lopez, down on the grid right now, talking to him.
Well, the conditions have certainly changed from this morning. Matthew Skoltz starting from the first spot on the grid. Matthew, a lot of emotions being on the verge of this championship here. What is the key to this race in order to get it done?
We didn't get too much dry time on the track, so I think we're just going to go out there and figure out how the tires drop off and everything else. But I think the biggest goal for me today is just to try to beat PJ and bring the championship home.
Best of luck, Matt. And guys, if he seems calm, it's because he is. I checked in with him earlier, and he is a cool customer as always. One more person I want to talk with. Kayla Yakov matched her best ever qualifying position this season, starting from 5th here today. Kayla, take us through it. What's your expectation for this race, and how do you want to end this season?
Yeah, I mean, I'd love to end the season on a great note. You know, we qualified really well this morning. I honestly didn't think I would be this far up on the grid with our lap time, but yeah, I mean, I feel very strong. This is a track that's basically home for me, and obviously I know everyone here. Charity's helped me out a lot with Riders Club, so I love this track a lot. So hopefully we can get a good start, be up front. I'd love to be in that front 3 group for the podium, and obviously if the win is there, we'd love to go for it, but yeah, end the season on a good note.
Kayla Yakov looking to end that rookie season on a high, guys.
What a massive fan base she has here in New Jersey. Obviously, she mentioned it's her home track and looking to do great. Well, Jason, this is one of the shorter courses that we have on our calendar for the season. It's New Jersey Motorsports Park, and I want to take you through a little bit of this racetrack and kind of give you an idea of where turn 1 is and where the final corner is, turn number 12. So looking at this road course, 2.25 miles long, only 4 left-handers and 8 right-handers, and it's freshly paved as well. And so what it's done, especially if you get to the corners of 6, 7, 8, 9, and all the way through 10, it's added some extra lines that riders didn't have before because it was very technical. There were some sealer patches and everything else, but it has been on and off rain as well, so you got to watch the curbing. You don't want to get out there on the wet curbs if there are some out there, but plenty of places to pass and some elevation changes as well. Well, New Jersey Motorsports Park awaits the start of Supersport Race number 1. It's 5 minutes to the race start, and this rider right here, local New York native Corey Alexander, looking to notch a win.
Staying with you here live at New Jersey Motorsports Park. Roger, I was watching Matthew Skoltz and the way he was holding himself there at the starting grid. You can tell how calm he is. He doesn't have that same pressure that we've seen him put on his shoulders at various points in the season.
Yeah, and I think just the work that he's did this year, and also for a rider too, when you are nervous and you feel the pressure, you do your best to play it off because you think it's gonna, if I act like I don't have pressure, then maybe I really don't. But there's gonna be a little bit of pressure. But you're right, he's really relaxed for what's going on, and I think the 39 points really helps that. I think qualifying really well helps that as well. And I think for Matt, the season that he's had, and he's a confident rider and he's showed great speed, so I think he feels really good about wrapping this up today.
One of the things that he has said over the course of this weekend is that at this point in the season, after the Supersport season and the competition that's unfolded, he feels like he's more of a well-rounded rider. And
for PJ that we see here, he's mentioned it all weekend that he wants to protect home turf here, and he wants to. He was disappointed when he wasn't even leading one of the sessions. So he's gonna go out and really qualified on the second row. I think he would rather be on the front row, but still right there. But I think you're going to see PJ go out and put his head down early on and just try to break away. But that's going to be difficult because I think his teammate's going to be tough. Corey Alexander is going to be strong this race as well.
For P.J. Jacobsen, he led the first practice session on Friday, also led that first qualifying session yesterday afternoon, and he did say it afterwards that he said that when he's not at the front, it really upsets him. So being further back than what he would like, he definitely has a little bit more work to do at the opening stages of this race because he cannot let Matthew Skoltz get out ahead.
And this place is tough to pass, so I think you're just going to see him be aggressive early, and Stefano Mesa as well. Qualifying there on the front row, track conditions might have helped that a little bit, but it's the unknown. We haven't seen any dry sessions, so we really don't know who has the speed and who doesn't.
Stefano Mesa, though, it was so fun to watch him in that qualifying session with the changing track conditions because he's able just to slide that bike and get lap time out of it no matter what.
Yeah, and I was not only sliding it on the exit, but I had a lot of fun watching him slide it on corner entry, and just the control Stefano has. He likes the bike sliding around, and he was the first guy that really started the slick trend. Everybody seen what he was doing. He started going faster than everybody went yesterday, and they started making their way out on track to follow suit.
Corey Alexander, you mentioned being P.J. Jacobsen's teammate. What role can he play in this one?
Well, I'm sure with the 39 points, I think it comes to a little bit less of a team strategy. And so I think if the points were closer, it'd be a little bit more of a strategy. Maybe if Matt has an issue, they might, change that as well during the race. But all Corey can do, I'm sure, is just don't do anything crazy with PJ and try to go out and win if possible.
The riders all out for their warm-up lap before they make it back to their grid positions. We'll go ahead and send it back next door to Greg White and Jason Pridmore.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series, and by Yuasa Battery, manufacturing in the USA since 1979.
All right, so we're back here at New Jersey Motorsports Park. Corey Alexander on the inside there, probably trying to let the field go by so we can get the warmest tires. We're on the warm-up lap of race number 1, and Jay, qualifying was a little bit crazy. We're going to talk about that in a second as we take a look at this starting grid. It's not the typical starting grid you see, but Matthew Skoltz was able to put it on pole, Mesa and Corey Alexander.
Yeah, and you'll see what we're talking about in a minute. P.J. Jacobsen, Yakov, and Max Girardo are going to be outside row 2. Then we have Ty Scott and Nassani. Great qualifying from Riston Grigg. Max Van there, who had 2 top 10s at Coda Greg, row 4. Jake Lewis and Enriquez, another good spot for him. Great to see Joe Lamondre Jr. here. Torrin Collins and Teague Hobbs, they're going to be on row 5 with Silva, LaRoche, and Blake Davis, 18th.
Whoa. Coming
from row number 6. And how about Dave Anthony coming from row 7 with Kevin Horney and Dylan Singh, Schultes, Silva, and Aiden Sneed. Then we have Monk, Oman, and Gus Rodeo rounding out the field, Greg. So we've got some people here that are coming from deep in the pack that we're used to seeing up front. So we'll try to chart their way forward for you as we get this race underway. And for this guy here, PJ, home race, track he's got a lot of experience on, probably pretty confident coming here. He's got to try to get from the second row and try to lead there into turn 1. This guy, Corey Alexander, his teammate on the front row.
Here we go, 19 laps scheduled for Supersport Race 1. When these lights are off, we're rolling. Long red light, but nobody jumped from the front row. So a good launch from the 23, Alexander. So here comes Corey. Matthew Skoltz did not get a good launch. He's going to funnel in at about 4th place from pole position as they funnel into a new, slightly revised turn number 1. The inside of the track open a little bit more, and it's going to be Corey Alexander, the number 23, who's going to lead us for the first couple of corners. And Corey on that Rahal Ducati Moto with roller die and forming. Quite a machine to see if you're live in person. Look at the bodywork on that thing. Awesome.
Yeah, Corey's got a lot of laps around this place also as Mesa gets a little bit loose going through that fast right-hand kink there. So for Matthew, he did exactly what he needed to do, Greg. He got through that turn 1 nice and unscathed, nice and clean. For the 11, what he wants to do is keep his head down, look forward ahead of him, and just pull away from everybody else. As we know, the lead that he has is pretty big over the guy just in front of him right now. Even if PJ gets to the front ahead of Mesa and Corey Alexander, Matthew is in a great spot. As you can see, that front quartet starting to pull away. It's really good, too, to see Stefano Mesa right there at the front of the field. He had a great qualifying this morning. I know they've been working hard on that bike all year long. And this is a place where I feel like we've seen Stefano go really well before. But looks like the 23 of Corey Alexander is going to lead them through here on the first lap.
So for the 37 of Mesa, out of Colombia on the Tytler Cycle Racing, that's a Kawasaki ZX6R. Coming under fire from the 15 of PJ Jacobson. Down into turn 1 they go on the Rahal Ducati Moto with Expel. PJ not able to get that one done.
Mesa was having none of that, was he, Greg? You could see that PJ made a bid to take over second place. Mesa looked like he literally just let the brakes off and went down to the apex of turn 1. So Mesa wants to end the season on a high too. All of these guys have come into this final race of the season. Everybody hot to try to win that final race of the year.
Corey Alexander goes 26.7. The qualifying time was a 27.8 as PJ, the number 15, trying to get around Mesa, not doing it there. But Jay, we talked about the qualifying and these riders coming through the field. It has been a mix of rain on and off, so the track has been somewhat dry, somewhat wet, so we haven't seen blistering lap times. Not track record pace we expected to get when we got here to the Jersey Motorsports Park because the track was freshly paved.
Yeah, and you can see right now track temperature 100 degrees, 79 degrees outside. It's actually really perfect weather for these guys as Mesa is going to run wide. He's going to open up the door for PJ and Matthew. So Mesa's going to slot himself back there into 4th spot. The reason Greg brings that up, 26.7 from a standing start, Greg, as well. That's already quicker than our pole position, our pole times this morning, simply because this morning we were going from a wet to a drying racetrack. So chances were being taken to get yourself up to that front row. But already on the first lap, as you see, Mesa looks like he might have a problem, Greg, as he's pulled over on the front straightaway here, looking back to see if there's something wrong. He's going to lose position. A little bit further back here, you see CJ LaRoche with Carl Soltis just behind him. So just having a look. Look, Blake Davis hasn't made a big jump up front, 13th. How about right now in 6th place? Let's give Joe Lamondre Jr. a shout. 6th spot, Greg. It's the only time we've seen him this year on that Boss Racing R6. And he looks like he's just up behind Ty Scott there. If you look at him come up over the ridge here, you can see the 64 is behind Mesa. So we'll have to keep an eye on Stefano and see if there's a problem as he tips into this last turn. Remember, it was a right-hander that he had a problem with before, and it's the same thing. That's actually the 3rd time I've seen that out of Mesa's bike, where he's tipped the bike in, and he's getting some strange kind of movement from it.
So Corey Alexander goes 124.233 out front. PJ Jacobson goes 24.8, but that was when he had Mesa in front of him. So for Matthew Skoltz now settling into 3rd position, a 25.1, his fastest lap of the race. But it looks like on our screen that PJ might be on a charge. Kilyakov back there on the 19, starting to get roughed up in the middle of that pack as one of the riders that Jason was talking about, the 85 of Jake Lewis on the Altus Motorsports machine, is starting to work his way through the field. Our 3rd in points in the championship, Jake Lewis, who comes off of a big win the last time we were racing in race number 1 at Circuit of the Americas, advancing forward as PJ Jacobson goes 23.688 to lower the fastest lap of the race, chasing his teammate Corey Alexander out front.
Yeah, Corey with a 24.1, but you can see the gap that the 2 Rahal Ducatis have pulled out over the rest of the field. It is now up to almost 3 seconds back to Matthew Skoltz, and these guys are going to continue to put the hammer down. I think watching pit boards and things like that are going to be really interesting. Hannah.
Oh, Well, PJ setting the fastest lap is no surprise. I talked to him and he said he's got a really good feeling with the dry setup. They made some minor changes to engine braking, but other than that, he's really comfortable. But I say this because he was so disappointed this morning not to get pole position at his home track that he said he's riding around out there mad, and it really motivates him to go fast.
And PJ Jacobsen gutting after it hard. Hey, fans of MotoAmerica can pick their favorite riders for a chance to win money. Available on your favorite sportbook and daily fantasy sites like DraftKings or Underdog Fantasy. Visit nxtbets.com/playma for exclusive sign-up bonuses for new players and receive bonus cash. Available in legal states. Check nxtbets.com/playma to see where you can play in your state. So 15.5 laps to go in Supersport Race number 1. And the battle out front between Rahal Ducati teammates. One of them is Rahal Ducati with Roller Die Informing, the other one with Expel, and it looks like PJ Jacobsen on the front straightaway coming out of the draft. The much taller and broader shoulders of Corey Alexander creates a big hole in the atmosphere, and PJ Jacobsen able to, on equal equipment, draft and pass and take over the lead.
It's really fun watching these two guys. Arguably the shortest rider in the field, and for sure the tallest rider in the field in Corey Alexander, but you can see that they're on the same bike, Greg, and they're getting the same job done. Now let's go a little further back. Matthew Skultz now is going to have some company from Ty Scott, and you know, he has a look over his shoulder, sees that there's somebody right behind him. I don't see Matthew putting up a big fight here. He's doing everything he can, Greg. It would be great for Matthew and his team, for him, to try to wrap the championship up today, and it will free him up tomorrow to try to go for that win.
Yeah, so Ty Scott on the number 70 Vision Wheel M4 Star Suzuki, trying to get by Matthew Skultz, and Skultz probably just wants to get this over with in this particular scenario. With PJ out front, the key position is if Matthew is 4th or better, he will wrap up the championship today and be able to fly free tomorrow. But he needs Ty Scott to just make the move. As in my conversation with Ty Scott earlier this week, and I asked him what he's going to do next year, and he said, for sure, I'm going to be in Supersport. So we'll get to see another opportunity for the 70, the young rider Ty Scott, to have a more consistent and faster year than he's had this season. He's shown some flashes of brilliance during the Supersport season, but it's definitely been up and down for the rider from Pennsylvania.
Yeah, no question. I think we had all big expectations. As you look at this battle, Blake Davis has found his way up past Mesa, past Lamondre Jr., and that looks like Jake Lewis that's also come to this party. So this is going to be a big battle now for 5th place, but Blake Davis has come from a long way back. As you see Jake Lewis squeeze up the inside of Joe Lamondre Jr. there as they head off into turn 3. Jarrett Nassani's part of this group. Kayla just off the back of them as well. So this is a really big group battling for 5th. You see Gerardo back there. Looks like Max Van as well is in this group. So yeah, but Blake Davis come from a long way back, as has Jake Lewis.
Yeah, but the margin between Blake Davis and Ty Scott is somewhere around 3 seconds. So there's a lot of real estate to make up if Ty Scott's not able to get around Matthew Skultz to possibly get another podium for the 22 Davis. But the progress right now of Jake Lewis in that pack is so impressive as he's able to just work his way up from his starting position, Jay, which we talked about earlier. It wasn't a great starting position, 11th place for Jake Lewis, and that has to do with just circumstances of how things unfolded between Friday and this morning. So there goes Lewis, Altus Motorsports, the dealership. Here racing for years with a couple of national championships to their credit, and giving Jake Lewis an opportunity this season on Supersport on the GSXR 750. And he goes right around. What a way to use the draft and pass for the 6'4" Jake Lewis.
Yeah, Lamondre also had some thoughts about trying to squeeze up the inside of Stefano Mesa, but he wasn't quite able to make it. Just looking up on my screen, Greg, fastest guy on the racetrack that last time by was the 22 of Blake Davis in 5th place. So he was about 2/10 quicker than Ty Scott in front of him. Matthew Skultz also, he was over a second. Actually, he was over a second, 1.2 seconds quicker than Ty Scott, and a full second quicker than Matthew. So Blake Davis closing up on that group. He is going to be the guy that I think is going to catch that battle for 3rd, as Jake Lewis now starts to pull away from that big battle for 6th now.
And the good thing for Lewis, he's got a really nice carrot sitting right in front of him, just about a 1.5 seconds up the road. And he's going to be able to use those visual cues to try to reel in Blake Davis. And if he's able to catch him, Jake Lewis able to catch Blake Davis. Perhaps the two of those riders will work together.
Well,
but
he's there, Greg. Look,
yeah,
he's on
look
the
at
back
Blake.
of him.
He's already on it. So now the question is for Matthew Skoltz. You can't be satisfied with fourth, because if Ty Scott is able to get around Matthew Skoltz, who's obviously picked up the pace, and Blake Davis does as well, he could find himself in fifth and not wrap up this championship today, with P.J. Jacobsen now 0.4 of a second out in front of Corey Alexander. So Blake Davis able to go by to 1:23.655, his fastest personal time of the race after setting Sector 3 and Sector 4 outright fastest sector times of the race. Blake Davis on the number 22. That motorcycle, a Yamaha R6 N2 Racing bobblehead moto, is on the charge, and it's Yamaha versus Yamaha, and Davis slots himself into third position.
Greg, he's got enough pace right now where he's already gone fastest first split of the race right this second. He had the fastest third and fourth splits of the race that last time by. He was a half a second quicker than the leader. So when you start to piece that together, what do we got? We got 8 of 19 laps are complete. Still got a long way to go. 7.1, 7.6 seconds is going to make, it's going to be a big deficit for him to try to cut down. But he is without question right now. As you can see, the leaders are so far gone off in the distance, you can't see them. But right now, Blake Davis is the man to watch as far as lap times and moving forward and seeing if he can do anything with these two guys right now. Because like I said, Greg, full half second a lap quicker than P.J. Jacobsen and Corey Alexander.
Now this has been a bit of a seesaw battle as we keep an eye on timing and scoring. You can see that it was 0.4 of a second to the last split, now to 0.2, and it's been going like that for P.J. and Corey. But it's all about Blake Davis right now, and Matthew Skoltz and Tyler Scott. What is Matthew Skoltz going to do? Listen, I talked to Ed Sullivan, his crew chief, about this exact scenario. They know how many points they have in the bag. Matthew is not desperate to wrap it up today. It's not that important. He could wrap it up tomorrow with a comfortable lead, even if he does finish fifth. It would be awesome to wrap it up today. But right now, we're going to keep an eye on Jake Lewis and his progress in sixth place, looking at the 85 rider right now and looking at his times. A 24.60 the last time by, and Blake Davis was able to do, Matthew Skoltz at a 25.1 and Ty Scott at 24.9. So currently, Jake Lewis is grabbing a couple tenths of a second quicker than the riders in front of him in fourth and fifth place.
Yeah, I think he has the potential to find himself get up onto the back of the two riders in front of him. As you look at the two leaders again, both on the Ray Hall bikes up front, PJ and Corey.
Oh no,
Somebody's
rider
gone
down.
Let's see who this is. That's going to be Jarrett Nassani. We're hearing is Jarrett Nassani is down.
That's horrible. Out of seventh place. That was such a great ride for Jarrett Nassani. Teammates to Jake Lewis on the Altus Motorsports GSXR 750. So for Nassani, looks like he's going to be up and walking away, but his race is over. Here comes Blake Davis at 22 in third place. And now it looks like Matthew Skoltz. Looked like for a moment that the Strack Racing Yamaha R6 was going to come under attack from that M4, the Vision Wheel M4X Star Suzuki of Ty Scott, but he's able to hold him off.
Yep, he was able to hold him off there, but Ty Scott he's obviously trying very hard right now. As Matthew just ran his personal best lap of the race, 24.7, and you see here Ty Scott 24.5, 24.3 for Lamondre Jr. He does his personal best back there in seventh.
Well, Jason, as Greg was saying a little bit earlier, the team has done the math. They know exactly where the points lie. And Matthew said to me, we've done the math. Now it's just time to ride. He's not focused on his exact position on the track. Right now, he's just concerned about not getting past and making sure he can pass the rider in front of him. He said yesterday the lap times felt really hard to do, and they made some adjustments, and the times are coming a lot better. He's got better roll speed today as well.
Well, this is really the first time, Hannah, I think that we've not seen Matthew really battling at the front, so it kind of tells me he is playing the long game. And I think when you're as seasoned as he is, what he's really trying to do right now, Greg, is just bring this championship home. And I think it's really key and important. You know, you said you talked to Ed Sullivan about this as well. That you don't lose sight of the fact that it would be really nice to complete the championship today, but it doesn't have to happen today. You want to try to keep yourself out of harm's way the best you can. That said, Matthews reacted and done 24.7 his last lap through, was his quickest. So maybe he's feeling a little bit more comfortable on the bike now. You know, he's got Ty Scott just in front of him. He goes 24.6 that lap, so he's continuously going a little bit quicker, but it's not going to be enough to wrap that up today with if Ty Scott can get by him, obviously.
So personal best time for Scults at a 24.6, although behind them by about a second and a half is Jake Lewis, who goes 24.3, so 0.3 of a second quicker. Saw moments ago the live championship standings. So if the race finished like this, in this order, it would be 27-point advantage for Matthew Scults over PJ Jacobsen with only 25 points available tomorrow. So that's what we talk about, the ability to wrap up the championship. However, if Matthew Scults was drifting back to 5th place, that would be another 2 points. So we'd be tied at 25 points, and the tiebreaker is going to be total race wins. Now, at this moment in time, Jay, the situation is pretty clear. Matthew Scults has 8 race wins this season. PJ Jacobsen has 6. So, if PJ wins today, that would be 7, and that would leave 1 more for tomorrow. So that's why, if he finishes 5th place, the tiebreaker doesn't necessarily win the championship, and we move on until to tomorrow. But right now, that's in the hands of Ty Scott on that Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki, and possibly, as we continue to roll on, with 7 laps to go in this race, 8 laps to go in this race.
Red flag.
And a red flag is out with a bike in the middle.
Right in the middle. That's the 12 of Enriquez, I believe. It does say 12, right? So yeah, it looks like the number 12 of Alexander Enriquez has fallen.
Wow, and out of 12th place as well. Yeah, as we can see on our timing and scoring, the 12 hasn't made his way back into pit lane. Kayla Yakov is in pit lane. Max Van, they were 8th, 9th. Mesa in 10th. Max Gerardo, Teague Hobbs, Torrin Collins, all coming in. The other riders had passed pit lane in PJ, Alexander, Davis, Scults.
All right, good. He's up and walking, so we like seeing that.
Hey, and if you're new to motorcycle road racing, you can kind of see that there's airbags inside his Day and Easy suit that activated. There's a computer that sits inside the hump of that leather suit, and the computer determines whether Enriquez was separated from the bike or not, and the suit inflated, and that's obviously to protect riders. So a good look at how modern safety equipment works in motorcycle road racing. Wow. So 8 laps to go. Let's see if we can get a little bit of a look, Jay, to see what happened in this incident that caused a red flag.
Yeah, it looks oh yeah, he's probably lost the rear pretty big there. You can see the marks in the background. So probably got sent up over the top. So just happy to see him up and okay. As the corner workers now, you can see it might be a little bit of fluid. I think, Greg, that's a little bit of fluid on the track. So they're going to get out there and clean that up and go from there.
All right, so the 3D Motorsports bike gets rolled off the racetrack. We're under red flag conditions. We'll take a break and get things sorted out when we get back to New Jersey.
We're staying with you here on MotoAmerica Live Plus and live on YouTube for the rest of this afternoon. Red flag conditions now here in the Supersport category. Roger, Blake Davis was flying. This could potentially change everything.
Yeah, this is going to change for Blake. He was just half a second quicker some laps than the leaders and was really closing that gap down. This gives him the opportunity whenever we go back racing to be on the front row and be right there with PJ. You could see the disappointment on PJ and Corey's face when that red flag came out, you know, kind of taking their hand off the bar. They were in the perfect spot, a 7-second gap on the rest of the field, but they're going to have to redo it. And I think for Matt, he was in a good spot there in 4th as well, and Jake Lewis was chasing those guys down, and Joe Landry was doing the same lap times as the guys on the podium. So this is going to be a totally different race when we get back going.
Another rider that was right there inside the top 5 all throughout this race has been Tyler Scott. We've already seen him with a win this season, 4 times on the podium, wanting to end this year on a high note. We just heard during that Supersport coverage from Greg that for sure Tyler Scott will be back in Supersport next year. And he is now standing by with Joe.
Jamie, yes, I'm down here with Tyler Scott. Tyler, closing in on Matthew Scults there. You were just behind him in that 5th position. How were you feeling at that point and the prospects of overtaking and causing an upset today?
Yeah, he was kind of slowing me up a little bit. I wanted to get around him and try and chase Blake or the leaders down earlier on in the race, but really frustrated right now, struggling with the bike setup a little bit, just not being able to do what I want to do with the bike. So hopefully with this red flag will allow us to make some changes that'll help us move forward in the race today.
And you've had 4 podiums already this season, so closing in on another potential podium. You've had some great racing this weekend, but what is it exactly that you're having issues with the bike?
I just need the bike to handle a little bit better under me, and I need to be able to put the bike where I want it.
Okay, well, best of luck out there. 5th there in this current race, and there will be, as mentioned, a restart from the positions I understand that the riders are currently in. So walking down pit lane, I can see Matthew Skoltz here. He has his helmet on. There are some heavy instructions going, so I'm not sure if he will be willing to chat, but we'll go in and see how he is feeling out there. Matthew, very close to tying up the championship. Obviously a red flag, probably not what you wanted, or how are you feeling about having to stop at this point?
Yeah, that does suck. Hope the guy that crashed is all good, but yeah, we just have to do it one more time now and hopefully finish top 4 again.
And Tyler Scott right on your heels. That's an important one to keep behind you if you want to close it out today.
Yeah, definitely. I know that he's going for his own championship, his own points, his own team, so he's doing what he needs to, and I need to do what I need to do to close the championship.
Indeed. Okay, well, everyone is very focused down here. Matthew Skoltz having to keep Tyler Scott from overtaking him if he wants to close out the championship. Well, I'm going to hand it back to Jamie and Roger in the booth. There's a lot of work going on, adjustments on the bike, and we're waiting to hear when we can go back out again on.
Thank you, Joe. Now being told 5 minutes until pit lane will open, as we did see the bike number 12 of Alexander Enriquez being taken away, having to clean up that fluid. You see Blake Davis there. Go back to what Tyler Scott said, that he was frustrated, Roger, with the handling of the bike in terms of the setup. Now under red flag, some of those issues can be addressed. Is 5 minutes enough?
Yeah, I think so. He'll be able to make some changes, especially a team like, you know, Tyler's on. They'll be able to make some Division Wheel M4 guys. They'll be able to make some changes right away and try to get that bike a little bit more comfortable. He says he felt like he had a little bit more speed, so if they can get the bike handling a little bit better for him, you know, also, you know, with these red flags too, that's a heat cycle on the tire, and sometimes they can feel different whenever we get back out there.
It will be a 5-lap restart once we do get back to racing. It'll be a quick start procedure for these Supersport riders here under red flag, with as much of the race carried out already as had been. You heard Joe mention it. We'll go back to the starting grid from the way they crossed the stripe and the last completed lap. So PJ Jacobson will lead us to turn 1. Corey Alexander will be in second, and then Blake Davis along on that front row. Let's get back down to Joe.
Corey, great racing out there, second in the moment. And this is a track that you're very used to, isn't it? So how are you enjoying it so far?
Yeah, it's good. I mean, we got the start I wanted to get. PJ was right there with me. Obviously, I'm trying not to get too much in the middle of his deal with the championship, obviously, so kind of just sat there on him for the race and got to see how it plays out, you know. But yeah, bike feels really good. Honestly, I feel like we have a lot of pace, but just being patient and more or less just ride behind PJ.
Fantastic. Well, great riding out there. We can hear the bikes revving up behind me, so I'll hand it back to Jamie and Roger.
We're getting closer and closer, Joe, for pit lane opening and riders being able to leave for their sighting lap, finding their grid positions, then with another warm-up lap afterwards. Same start procedure as the beginning of the race, just happening in a quicker time, Roger.
Yeah, and for these guys too, just to try to get back out there, and you know, the track's going to continue to get better with laps, and you know, after a rain, the track can be a little bit green, and it gives it, like Tyler, you know, he might be able to go out there and see right away if those changes that he made is the right one.
Tyler there looking at what I imagine is the timing and scoring as lap progression over the first laps of the race. We'll restart everything. It'll be 5 laps here when we get back to racing.
That's short.
2 minutes now being told before pit lane will open.
5 laps around this track is going to go fast, and you know, so getting a start, we've heard so many riders talk about that. This place is difficult to pass, only 5 laps. It is so important to get a good start.
See Blake Davis there, final conversations. Maxi Girardo, he had a tremendous qualifying effort being able to be on the top 2 rows, but had to settle back into 11th, which is where he'll restart these 5 laps from.
Yeah, just not the race that he wanted, and you know, just kind of seeing him on screen there, almost looks like he's kind of fighting through something maybe, but he did a good qualifying. Now he has the opportunity, maybe. He does have a lot of dry laps here, and since this is the first dry session of the weekend, so that also could play a part of it.
See Stefano Mesa there, the number 37. We talked about him early on, being able to qualify on the front row. He's another one of the riders that didn't have the best opening laps back in 10th when we get back to racing.
Yeah, and maybe gives him opportunity to try again and get a really good start and try to make some moves early on into that race. But you know, Stefano's going to be a little bit disappointed front row back into 10th. So race isn't over. He has another chance at it.
You know who gets another chance at it also? Jake Lewis. Didn't have the qualifying that he wanted all the way back on row number 4 and 11th, but now he'll line up in 6th.
And he had the speed to go with Matt and Tyler, so he has the opportunity to get right behind them now. And him and Blake have that battle for 3rd, so it's going to be an important race for Jake.
There's Jake Lewis there on the number 85 from Altus Motorsports. You can see all the riders now making their way towards the exit of pit lane, waiting for it to open back up, and they can get back out there, try and get back into their rhythms. Any changes again that riders wanted, those could be executed on pit lane with the exception of changing tires. Pit lane now open. We're going to go ahead and send it back over to Greg White and Jason Pridmore.
Jersey Motorsports Park, Supersport Race number 1. We had a red flag with an incident that found a motorcycle in the middle of the racetrack, so too dangerous to continue. But it was a quick cleanup, and now we've gone to a 5-lap to go race. But JP, here's how we've got there.
Yeah, you can see here Corey Alexander did a good job getting out front ahead of Mesa and PJ Jacobson. Corey would lead this race, Greg, and you can see PJ there back in 3rd, Skoltz 4th. Mesa would make a small mistake, and so that made it easier for PJ and Matthew to get through. And then PJ made this draft to pass on Corey down the front straightaway. And right now it's a good spot for PJ to be in with a teammate behind him that isn't really going to get in touch with the championship too much. Blake Davis was the guy in the group. They're coming from way back on the grid. He made his way past Ty Scott, and on the same lap did the same thing to Matthew Skoltz. And then we had a big crash from Enriquez there, just out of turn 9, I believe it is, Greg. And yeah, turn 7, sorry. So that brought us to the point we're at now. You see PJ asking Corey how his rear tire is. So those two guys probably had a chance to talk. A lot of storylines, but now I think this opens up for you and I to think about as far as championship scenarios and, you know, another start on these clutches and so on and so forth.
Yeah. So they're going to do a restart, so the grid changes. So it's going to be PJ Jacobson, Corey Alexander, and Blake Davis on the front row. Skoltz is on the 2nd row now with Ty Scott, Jake Lewis in 6th, who is charging, Lemandry, Yakov, and Max Fan. Now, Jason, we're on a quick start procedure. So basically what's happening now is there's a sighting lap, and then they're going to have one member of their crew in the grid position. They're going to stop there for a second, then they'll give them a warm-up lap. So you can see that's what the grid looks like. So this is going to be quick. But let's talk about these scenarios. So with the front row now, okay, PJ, Corey, and Blake Davis. Blake Davis had to work his way up to a position. Then you have Skoltz in 4th, who was holding off Ty Scott, and Jake Lewis, who has not got phenomenal starts. Give us some of the scenarios you're thinking about right now.
Well, when I think about it, the 22 right now, Blake Davis arguably was the quickest in the race. He came from so far back. By the time he got there, though, Greg, the leaders were gone. So he doesn't have to deal with that anymore. And for this young man here, we've watched him win a couple Twins Cup championships. We've really seen him come on strong here towards the end of the year. He is hungry to get his very first win, and he is a guy now that is going to have that opportunity. For Matthew coming from the 2nd row, the concern now is Matthew doesn't always get the greatest starts. Now he's put himself in a position where there could be more people around him going into turn 1. So there's all kinds of things now. PJ's got to worry because he's got Blake Davis that he's going to have to race with now. He doesn't just have the teammate. And then Matthew's got issues coming from a little further back.
With more on Blake Davis, let's get to Hannah Lopa.
Greg, Blake had a crash in Q1 yesterday, and then in Q2 they made the wrong tire choice, so he doesn't have a lot of dry laps out there, but he said the bike is so dialed, even despite the lack of seat time. And qualifying 18th, he said, you know, I just didn't really have the opportunity to get a quick flying lap, and so he really feels like now he has a shot to win, that his starting spot reflects the lap times that he's capable of. Yeah, for sure. We saw it in that race, the first part of the race. Now, keep in mind, it's kind of complicated, but the way this works is what happened to get to this 5-lap sprint race is irrelevant other than setting the grid position. So it's all about these 5 laps and what's going to happen. But for Blake Davis, in a great position. And of course, Jay, you know, Dunlop provides us with some information about tire choices, and it's kind of all over the board
You know, the lower number, meaning like an R3, R5, R7, the lower number means softer compound, the higher number means harder compound, and you can choose front and rear, and it's all over the place.
Yeah, everybody's on the R7s with the exception of Gerardo. He's on the R8, talking rear right now. Jake Lewis also on the R8. There's 3 people that have done minute 23 lap times in this race, and now they're going to be occupying the front row. So pace-wise, we know Blake has the pace, and you know, he, like I said, he is itching for this first win, and that's what I think he's going to be going after. So everybody's just got to be focused right now on getting this good start. I think for Matthew, again, it's got to be get the best start you can and keep yourself out of harm's way in turn 1. And for PJ, he's got to try to get off to that fast start again and get a lead.
This guy right here, the 22, could be the spoiler for PJ Jacobsen's plans. As you know, Blake Davis awfully fast, and just on such a run of podiums here towards the end of the season. It's been an awesome, awesome ride for the 22. But for the number 11, looking at his points lead in this championship, boy, if it was any slimmer than this, you and I kind of had a joke, like if it was 20 points or 15 points, it would be so much more tension here. But he's done a good enough job for Matthew Skoltz. This start's going to make a difference. Restart, race 1, 5 laps to go. And away we go. Saw a little bit of movement. Not sure if anybody's going to get one, but Corey Alexander. No, it's got to be the 15 to PJ Jacobsen who gets a good run. Corey Alexander leading on the 22. Is there enough room in turn 1? No, Blake Davis is going to get the position from Alexander. And it looks like Ty Scott has moved his way to 4th around Matthew Skoltz, who's in 5th spot.
Still, Matthew got off the line very well. I kind of keyed in and watched him, and he was very deliberate with how he got that R6 off the line. He's going to have trouble also with Jake Lewis, who's just behind him now, but you see PJ doing exactly what he needed to do by getting out front, starting to try to stretch a little gap, make PJ really comfortable, is if his teammate Corey Alexander could somehow get in that mix as well. As you saw, Jake Lewis was taking a look around the outside of Matthew Skoltz. Jake Lewis hungry to get that 2nd win of the season.
So PJ Jacobsen streaking away, trying to break the will of the riders behind him on that Ray Hall Ducati Moto with X-Spelled yellow machine. And for Blake Davis, he's starting to figure out this fast lap number 1.
Wow, Blake is fast in that sector that we just went through, Greg. He's really fast. I think it's the start of the 3rd sector because he really closed up through that big, long 7, 8, 9 area of the track, did the 22. Look at that, 28.7. So he's 0.3 quicker, and you can visibly see it. Now it's going to be a matter of him getting out of this last corner strong, which he has done. He is in the draft to PJ Jacobsen, Greg. He's going to be able to do something with him by the time they get to turn 1.
Here comes the 22. N2 Racing bobblehead motor Yamaha R6 goes to the front.
And that helps Matthew. I mean, so that's a big thing. Matthew can see all that stuff happening just up the road from him. And, you know, Corey's not going to take a shot at PJ. So this is going to be PJ trying to wrestle that 1st place position back from the 22 in front of him.
So PJ Jacobsen going like, wait a second, where did the blue bike come from? He's going to have to assess this. And when you look at these points, as you look at the draft and pass move on the left part of your screen, live shots on the right part of your screen, the difference between 1st and 2nd is 5 points. But Matthew Skoltz, who's back in 5th with Jake Lewis threatening him, the difference between 5th and 6th is only a single point. So in terms of if Skoltz gets passed versus PJ getting passed, that's the championship right there. Yeah. Currently, it's sitting tied in points. That's going to push us to tomorrow to decide the champ.
Oh, sorry. Look how fast, Greg, that Blake pulled away in that section. It's in those long rights. So on the edge of the tire, he's got a lot of edge grip. You mentioned stuff about how tire wear can go off, especially after a restart. And his edge grip on the right side specifically is extremely fast. And if he pulls away that much on like the last lap, they're not going to be able to do anything with him as they come onto this front straightaway. You can see he's already got a little bit of a lead. Corey Alexander now looking up the inside of PJ, and he's going to take over 2nd. So maybe he's going to try to pull PJ back up to the rear tire of Blake Davis, because right now that championship is sitting in the number 11's pocket for today. So this restart has been a complete benefit for Matthew Skoltz.
Yeah, and we talk about the Ray Hall Ducati Moto team, they're all set for next season with the 3 riders they currently have. So if you look at team orders, not sure what's going to happen, but Corey Alexander feels like he's got some speed, and he would be doing PJ a huge favor if he can reel in Blake Davis and put him behind him. Of course, 1st to 3rd is 9 points difference, and 1st to 2nd a 5-point difference, while Skoltz still hanging right there where he needs to be in 5th place. and to see if Scults starts to push the issue. Again, Jay, you talk about a heat cycle, meaning a heat cycle, the tires are warm, they get up to race temperature and they stay there, but then when they have the cool down lap, they come in, even putting tire warmers on them, there's a certain heat cycle the tires go through, as Blake Davis in the fastest section for him on this New Jersey Motorsports Park racetrack.
He just smashes them through that right. So you'll see as the lap progresses, Corey will close back up onto the back of Blake Davis before they get to that section. And Corey right now pulling away from his teammate as well. The 23 working really hard as he goes 23.643, the fastest lap that we've seen in this particular restart. But look how close Corey is right now. If Corey can try to do something with him before they get to that long right section, that's what he's going to have to do, because he will not be close enough on the last lap to do any kind of drafting.
Blake Davis out of Lynchburg, Virginia, just down the road on that N2 Racing bobblehead moto. Corey Alexander on the 23. At Austining, New York on the Ray Hall Ducati moto with roller die informing number 23. And of course, PJ Jacobsen, the number 15. Out of Westtown, New York on the Ray Hall Ducati moto with Expel. All local riders all saying this is their home track.
Yeah, Corey really straight lines it. You saw him go from that fast kink into that turn 5 area, Greg, and really straight lined it and did a lot on the brakes. But this is the spot. Now you keep an eye here. You look at how close he is now. Watch how much the 22 pulls away all through this section. And going up this hill, I mean, you can visibly see it.
There.
He just kills him up this hill. So that could be anything from gearing. He's run it wide, though, at the top. But it could be something as simple as gearing going up that hill where the R6 is working just a little bit better. A little further back, you see Ty Scott still dealing with Matthew Scults. Before the red flag, that position order was changed, was flipped around. But we've got two kind of sets of 3 here. Corey pulls a tear off back.
All right, white flag out, final lap of this race. The question is Blake Davis going to be able to hold off the Ducatis? Is Corey Alexander going to settle for or sit in second place and not let his teammate roll around him? There's so many questions to be answered.
If it happens, it's going to happen going into turn 5. So they're going to come all down through here. On these bikes, this is going to be 3rd gear. They'll do a shift up to 4th. They'll come up over the top of this rise. Now Corey, from this right-hander into the next left, he straight lines it, Greg. So Blake's got to hold a real tight line. Yep, he did that too. Blake used the exit nicely there. A little further back. This looks like it's pretty well organized between those 3 also. All the fight, though, is at the front.
Yeah, and if it stays this way, even though PJ set the fastest lap of this race at a 23.5 last lap by, if it stays this way, the championship is going to go to Scults. Blake Davis doesn't care about that. All he cares about is getting his team a win. As we're on the final section of New Jersey Motorsports Park, and he goes a little wide, does the 22. The door opens up.
Historically, in championships here, Corey has been really good through that last fast right. As you get a look at Matthew Scults, Corey's been so good through this last right-hander in years past. He might be able to get a run on the 22. He's trying to set up for it.
Here we go. Onto the front straightaway they go. Corey Alexander in the tuck. As they come to the line, it's going to be Blake Davis, Corey Alexander, PJ Jacobsen, 1, 2, 3. Matthew Scults is going to come home in 5th place, just behind Ty Scott. Jake Lewis in 6th. Joe Lemandry, Kayla Yakov. Max Van, Teague Hobbs, your top 10. And you're looking at your 2024 Supersport National Champion. What a ride by Matthew Scults after a red flag restart race. And for Corey Alexander, 0.049 seconds away from a win here at his home track. But Blake Davis, all the glory. And Strack Racing Yamahas. Matthew Scults, 8 wins, 14 podiums with 1 to go. And the number 11 now.
I'm not sure he knows. I don't know if he thinks PJ may have won that race, because right now I think if Matthew knew he had won the championship, he'd probably be celebrating a little bit more. So not completely sure that Matthew knows.
Yeah, we'll see if he throws a wheel in the air or not, but he's going to know once he comes down pit lane.
Oh yeah, he'll know then.
And gets to his team, because they are over the moon. As is the 22 of Blake Davis. I would say, Jason, one of the most difficult times to win a race is when you win a race and a championship at the same moment is won. And Matthew Scults, with a thank you to Blake Davis a huge team play for Yamaha as Blake Davis takes the maximum point value away from Matthew Skoltz's championship rival in PJ Jacobsen, helped by Corey Alexander.
Yeah, all three of those guys at the front ran a great race, obviously. But, you know, sometimes, Greg, the red flags work against you, and some days they work for you. And for this kid today, the 22, it definitely worked for him today. Where did he come from, 18th? Was he 18th? Or I know he was way back on that grid. So here
yeah,
gonna get
18th.
a look right. Yeah, gonna get a look here at Matthew Skoltz coming into the pit lane.
So Skoltz, you're national champion. When we come back, we're going to hear from Blake Davis, Corey Alexander, PJ Jacobsen, and our new national champion. Hang tight.
Back with you here live at New Jersey Motorsports Park as you look at live pictures now of our 2024 Supersport champion, Matthew Skoltz, making his way over to Ed Sullivan. They work together so hard. Roger, outside of this window, I can hear them screaming down 3 floors below us.
Yeah, and for Matt and even the team, you know, they worked really hard all year to get to this point. Also, it's even more special when you're in a battle like they've been in all year, trading blows with PJ and that other team. And, you know, Matt's did a great job managing the season, pushing when he needed to, collecting points when he needed to as well, and able to come here today and be smart again and end up the champion.
The entire Track Racing team really rebranding themselves coming into this season, all of the hard work, all of the effort, everything that went into this program for them, it's all been being rewarded with a championship.
Even for Matt, you know, it's kind of been a difficult year in a way. You know, it's Superbike rider, and then that goes away, and it's like, what do I do next? And be able to rebound and come here to the Supersport class and get the win.
You can see the emotion out of everybody there. But how about Blake Davis? When we were under red flag, we started talking about it. He was just on rails and unstoppable, it seemed.
Yeah, and Blake is just, man, the talent he has, winning the Twins Cup championship a couple times, have other really good races in Supersport, even in Daytona before he was even in the Supersport class, being in battles to win. Just so impressive.
Extremely impressive. Everyone on that N2 bobblehead team, they saw it in him with the Twins Cup, bringing him up to Supersport. Already with the #1 plate. And look at the helmet also. Champion through and through. Big congratulations for Matthew Skoltz. Just listening in to these congratulations now being handed out to Matthew.
Team owner Peter there, it's a great feeling for him as well. He puts a lot of work into putting this program and getting it to where it was. You know, they started out just a couple years ago doing, you know, a couple races a year, then full-time last year, and this year able to put all that stuff they've learned the last couple years and get the title.
It's a huge investment from everybody at Track Racing on this full championship hunt. Now getting to go in tomorrow with just wanting to win.
Not only the huge investment as well, but the investment of time for Peter and everybody part of that whole team to run a program. It's not easy for those guys, and they put together, so it's even a reward for them as well.
I'm going to go ahead and send it back over. You see Hannah Lopa there and ready. Let's go to Greg and Jason.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is brought to you by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series. And by Yuasa Battery, manufacturing in the USA since 1979.
All right, Schultz coming in, #1 plate on, national championship in the books. Here's a look at the results. Blake Davis, Corey Alexander, PJ Jacobsen, your top 3. And then it's Ty Scott, Matthew Skoltz in 5th, Jake Lewis, Lamandry, Yakov, Max Van, and Hobbs. Let's get right down to Hannah with our champion.
On behalf of the AMA, Mike Pelletier for your AMA FIM North America 2024 Supersport champion, presenting the #1 plate to Matthew Skoltz. Big congratulations to Matthew. Thank you so much, Mike. Matt, it's been an incredible season of some high highs and some low lows.
Yeah.
Summarize it for me. How much does this moment mean to you?
The season began off, it wasn't the best for us. We had problems with the bike, took I think it was a 3rd and a 4th. But from the second race of the season, I knew that we were in it for the championship hunt. Firstly, just want to say congratulations to PJ and to the Ray Hall team. They put up a good fight all year, and I think the championship could have gone either way. Thank you to the Strack Racing team. They gave me a beautiful bike all season long. They worked really hard. They went home late on Friday and Saturday nights to make sure that everything came out perfectly for me. And also, one thank you to Treg Westby. Without him, I wouldn't be half the rider I am today. So thank you there, and to my mom and my dad that are busy watching. Thank you so much, guys.
Big congratulations. Your Supersport champion, Matthew Skoltz, guys.
Just awesome. And we're going to step away from the Jersey Motorsports Park. We come back, we're going to talk to our podium. Hang tight.
Now officially the 2024 champion. They were ready with shirts and everything, Roger, but I love that Matthew was able to take a step back and also give thanks to everyone around him.
Yeah, and that's, he knows that's what it takes, has to have a team. And, Matt's been on a good team, the Westby team, and I think he's able to really appreciate that hard work and see all the stuff those guys do, not only the team owners, but the crew as well, just all that hard work. He mentioned it, staying late on Friday and Saturday nights, just making sure that the bike was ready to go and giving him something that can win.
You can see other teams coming over to congratulate him as well. That's pretty neat.
Yeah, Tom Halverson from Yamaha, he's going to be happy as well. Supersport title for them again, so after a couple years, so they'll be happy. Yamaha will be really happy with that.
Let's go back over to Greg and Jason.
Welcome back to Jersey Motorsports Park. It's time for us to get right down to Hannah with our winner, Blake Davis.
It's been a long time coming for Blake Davis. Finally on the top step of the podium. Blake, tell us how you got the job done.
It was a crazy race. I started from 18th on grid and just worked my way up on that before the red flag. And after the red flag came out, I was a little disappointed. I usually don't get the best start, so I didn't want to go backwards anymore. But having that good pace, and I had a good start, got up in front of Corey and was able to get by PJ and just lead the race, set the pace, and had a blast.
Congratulations, Blake Davis, today's race winner. Moving right on over to second place, Corey Alexander. Corey, it was a really close finish. Take us through that final lap.
Yeah, honestly, the bike, the Ray Hall Ducati Moto team, powered by Roller Die, bike was so good in that race. It was one of those races again, like the first one at Coda, where the bike was just on rails, and I felt like I had so much pace. But Blake was riding amazing, and he's just got that thing, gets off the corners really well. I think my size hurts me a little bit, but huge shout out to the team, DJ, Tim, Richie, my girlfriend Kaylin, Rich Millman, just Brittany, Grace, Ronnie, everyone, Ben. Super bummed for PJ to not be able to walk away with the championship here at our home round, but I'll be back next year swinging. And thanks to all my personal sponsors, Detail Doctor, Dell's Flooring, Ride HVMC, Sal's Pizza, JLS, Prestige Services Group, just everybody that supports me. We got another one tomorrow. Hopefully, be a little bit less tentative around PJ. I didn't want to mess him up at all as much as I could. So I said I wasn't going to make any passes unless I could do it on a straightaway. God forbid. And so tomorrow will be a little more fun.
Thanks, Corey. Congrats, guys.
All right, outstanding job by Corey Alexander. And as we take a look at our championship point standings, with one to go tomorrow, it's all wrapped up by Matthew Skoltz. And you can see that it's 34 the difference between him and PJ, with Blake Davis in third. Now just ahead of Jake Lewis. Ty Scott there in fifth place. A little change there between Blake and Jake Lewis, as both those riders have won. So our top four in the championship are the four riders that have won races in Supersport this season. As you can see, the cool looking helmet that Matthew Skoltz has as his championship winning helmet. Well, that'll do it for us from New Jersey Motorsports Park, Supersport Race #1. We've crowned a new national champion, and we get to do it again tomorrow. For Hannah and Jason, I'm Greg. We'll see you then. Later.
We're back here for the podium celebrations at New Jersey Motorsports Park for the Supersport category. The next racing that we'll see out on the racetrack will be still Commander Superbike. For